guys won't believe this, but I'm actually hanging out with a friend today. Isn't that neat? I met him at a 7-Eleven and everything. I usually don't have many friends over for like a casual hangout thing or anything like that. Before him, it was... So I gotta make a good impression. I can't let him know that I ramble on the internet about dumb movies.
Who are you talking to?
No one! So, what do you want to do?
Wait, what was that about bad movies?
Oh, that's nothing. I just like sometimes talk about some movies I'm just not that into, like Fant4stic.
Fant4stic? What is that?
Well, since you asked, do you guys ever think about the Fantastic Four? The Fantastic Four are, well, fantastic, and yes, I had to say that, shut up, but they really are. They're fantastic, and for a while now, I've been like so fascinated by them, and I've been like researching all about them and reading some of their comics, and I am absolutely falling in love with them. They're easily becoming some of my favorite comic book characters of all time. They left a huge impact in the world of comic books and superheroes. They are easily some of Marvel's best and like most iconic characters, and like I could go on and on about explaining what makes them so great, but I feel like there are so many other videos out there that have done a much better job doing that, even better than what I could ever do. Like this video right here by B-Mask, We Are the Fantastic Four, a retrospective. This video is awesome. I highly recommend this one. What you basically need to know is that the Fantastic Four are pretty awesome in the comics, but outside of that, things haven't really been the best for them. Which is where I feel the tragic part of the Fantastic Four comes from. They are easily some of Marvel's best characters, but, you know, they just haven't been treated that well when it comes to bringing them into the more mainstream media through things like TV shows and movies. It's especially in movies where Fantastic Four have had not the greatest luck, and I should say, out of like the Fantastic Four movies that exist, I've only seen one. It's just the one I'm gonna be talking about today. The other three I haven't seen, but I have heard things about. Like, most people only know of 3 Fantastic Four movies, but there's actually 4. The first one was from the 90s and was never officially released. It has like this whole interesting backstory to it that if you want to look into it, I'd highly recommend it. Maybe I'll even do like a video on it itself if I ever decide to talk about that movie, because even though it was never officially released, there are some pirated versions out there like on YouTube and stuff, so I'll have to check that out one day because I am curious. But like basically all you need to know is that like, yeah, some people have like an interesting view on it because of like how like, oh hey, you know, this was never officially released and it has like an interesting backstory, but for the most part the movie is kind of dumb from what I hear. And then you have the 2 movies from the 2000s by Fox, Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, which were kind of made to ride the success of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and they're also not considered all that good. And then you got the one from 2015, the one I am talking about today, the one where like Fox tried to revitalize the Fantastic Four and like create a new franchise, and did it. So I don't even know why I'm asking, you know it didn't. This movie had a pretty messy behind-the-scenes production. Like, the director wanted to do more of a body horror type of story with the Fantastic Four. When they filmed all that, Fox was all like, no, we do not like this. And so they reshot a lot of stuff, took out a lot of stuff, and apparently the director was kind of a jerk on set. So all of this led to a final product that did not turn out all that well. It was a bomb at the box office, it wasn't received all that well critically, and it failed to kickstart a new film franchise for the Fantastic Four. Sad. Anyway, here's what I think about the movie. Okay, weirdly enough about this movie, well, I don't think like I was interested at all in what was happening. I was not exactly bored by the movie. That's not to say that it's good. Oh, not at all. It is definitely bad. But I don't know, something about it like made me go like, I don't hate watching this. I mean, I didn't love it either, and I don't think I liked watching it, but I definitely didn't hate watching it, which I have no idea what that's all about. Maybe this movie was not as bad as I was like expecting it to be, or I'm just becoming numb to bad movies. I have no idea. I guess I'm just saying, yeah, I wasn't interested in what was going on, but I wasn't bored, so I don't know, I guess that's something. Alright, now let's talk about the characters of the movie and how bland they are, honestly. Yeah, they are not all that interesting or engaging, and that kind of sucks, especially for a Fantastic Four movie, because a big thing about the Fantastic Four and what makes them great are the characters. Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, Ben Grimm. They are a family, and a reason that's important is because it was a big part of what made them successful. The Fantastic Four was made by Marvel to sort of compete with the Justice League of America, DC's creation, a team of superheroes. And then they asked Stan Lee to do it, but Stan Lee didn't want them to be like a team of superheroes who had secret identities and didn't know each other all that well. You know, no, he wanted them to be connected somehow, and he decided to make them a family. Reed Richards and Sue Storm were engaged to each other and later got married. Ben was Reed's best friend, and Johnny was Sue's brother. And like that was a big deal at the time, and it was those character dynamics that made the characters really likable and lovable, and like those are the same things. I don't know why I repeated that, but like you get what I mean. It made them enjoyable to watch, and in my opinion, out of like a lot of the Fantastic Four comics that I read, some of my favorite moments from those comics were like the little interactions they had with each other, whether they be comedic or emotional. I just thought those were the best parts. And then like I see this movie here, and like the characters are kind of bland. Like I said, like nothing about them really stands out all that much, and like their interactions with each other, some of them I feel could be interesting, but I don't know, they weren't interesting enough, and to make me at least care enough about these characters. Okay, I do think there is one part that involved like some sort of like character interactions in the movie that I actually think I was like somewhat a little bit interested in, but there wasn't a lot of it. Let me explain. It was in the beginning of the movie, the very beginning. It was when we saw Reed Richards, young Reed Richards, and young Ben Grimm, which I should say, I called him Ben Grime earlier. That's not what his name is. It's Ben Grimm. That's what I meant to say. I am really sorry about that. I'm fake Fantastic Four fan, I guess. Okay, but Ben Grimm, like, you know, they're children, and we see that they don't really have the best lives. Like, Reed Richards is a genius, but his parents don't give him all that much, like, attention, and the people at school make fun of him. And Ben, like, lives in, like, a junkyard, and, like, he lives in a kind of abusive household. Like, his brother beats him, and, like, I will admit one thing. I don't think that was, like, that scene kind of came off as a little bit dumb, and let me explain. It's because like if you know like the Thing, aka Ben Grimm, he says it's clobbering time when it's time for like, you know, right, when he fights and all. But like where did he get that? Well, apparently in this movie he got it from his brother, who beats him by saying it's clobbering time, and then child abuse. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I know child abuse is not funny, but I don't know. That's just dumb. Who says that? But just to be children. I probably sound terrible right now. Okay, look, the point is, like, gonna get away from that. Yeah, he does not live in the best household, but we see them kind of grow like this, like sort of friendship with each other when he gets interested in like Reed's machine and he helps him out with it. And like, I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting. I feel like a friendship like that would be interesting to watch. My main issue with it is like we don't really get to see it explore, because after that we see them, they're older, and like the machine is like built or like close to being finished, built or whatever, and then boom, we just don't get to see that, like, you know, not even a montage of them like kind of growing closer to each other. No, just they be friends. And like we do get some moments here and there that I thought were that could have been interesting, like when we see like after like Ben turns into the Thing, he turns into a giant like rock monster, and then like we see like Reed have like this like sort of like, you know, like guilt about it because it was his fault why this happened. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like that aspect is interesting, especially like in the comics, you know, we see like Reed like have like a guilt for that, but like here it's like, I don't know, it just isn't explored all that much, or at least not in like it's explored enough for me to care about, like I said before. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like that'd be interesting, but no, it just isn't, and like, you know, kind of sucks. Okay, so this movie actually changes the backstory of the Fantastic Four quite a bit, so that way they could be younger, and then, you know, that way, and also Dr. Zoom could be part of the backstory as well, with them like being in the same like scientific accident that made them get their powers, and then they also go to this other world type of place, all that stuff. But the some parts of the Fantastic Four you know, story is still there. They still go through some scientific mumbo jumbo that causes them to get the powers. Reed Richards gets to stretch his arms, Sue turns invisible, Johnny can you know, make his body on fire or whatever. I'm not good at explaining. And then Ben turns into a giant rock monster thing. You know, it's like, and it ultimately that still happens, and that is still the basic Fantastic Four kind of setup. So I don't mind too much that they changed the backstory a bit, even though I guess I would have preferred the original backstory. This can work fine. It's just, again, the characters are bland and not very engaging, to the point where it's like, I don't know, I'm just not into these people. They're like, they kind of have no personality. By that I mean, like, okay, mainly Sue. She kind of has no personality, honestly. She doesn't stand out, honestly, and like nothing about her really pops. Same goes for the others. Yeah, sure, like Johnny's a little bit cocky. You know, Ben is you know, kind of tough, and like, you know, and Reed is you know, he's kind of a dork. That's kind of it. But it's like, I don't know, nothing besides the bare minimum of like what a personality about. They don't have much more than the bare minimum of having a personality. And it's like, I feel like they could have done more, honestly, and they just aren't engaging. Like I said, they're kind of bland. The story, it kind of feels for a lot of it, not much happens, or at least not much interesting. Like, okay, so for like, the movie is only like an hour and 45 minutes or something, so maybe that's part of why I didn't really feel bored, because it just didn't feel that long, honestly. It didn't really feel like a super long movie, but I will admit, a lot of the runtime, not much interesting stuff happens. Like in the beginning, we see them build this machine so they can go to this other world and stuff, and like only through like close to like the halfway point of the movie, that's when we actually see them do that mission and then get their powers and stuff. And then like halfway through the movie, I should say, and then like they kind of like jump cuts to like a year later, and they fully control their powers and stuff. We don't see them get to have like training montages or do some like fights in between, you know, right? No, they just know how to use them, and then like all this, and then like later on, all of a sudden, Dr. Doom, who was also in the accident, like before he was like this kind of like scientist who was like kind of arrogant and like was all like, yeah, this is my machine, like I think we should do this, all that stuff, and then we see him like just all of a sudden after the accident, he's like, humanity needs to be killed, needs to be destroyed, and then it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and now the plot is about like, oh hey, the Fantastic Four gotta team up to stop him before he can, like, I don't know, unleash death upon the world or whatever. And yeah, it just suddenly changes, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, that is kind of odd. And like, remember how I said earlier the director wanted this movie to be a body horror type of thing, and I feel like one scene kind of works in that aspect. It's the scene where we first see them, you know, in pain with their powers in like these hospital room type of places, and like, it's a legit kind of creepy, and I feel, I don't know, it's kind of effective. But like, I will say, I don't entirely know if like body horror is something I want to see with Fantastic Four, which is something I'll get into a little bit later. But regardless, like the scene, for what the director was trying to go for, it's kind of effective there. But everything else, like, I don't know, it just starts out kind of like not much interesting stuff happens, and then at the end, like all this stuff that, you know, like they just suddenly becomes like your average superhero movie where the character's got to fight this one guy who's gonna bring like a portal in the sky to destroy the world, and you know. And it just kind of comes out of nowhere. The motivation comes out of nowhere, just all that stuff. It's not really well put together. And of course, that could be because of the trouble, you know, production history. Like I said, a lot of stuff was like reshot, cut out of the movie, stuff like that. So maybe there is somewhere out there in another universe a cut of this movie where none of that messy production stuff happened, and like we got the cut that the director always intended, and maybe it was good. I don't know. I don't really care enough to see that cut. Alright, now let's talk about Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom in this movie is so lame, and probably the most lame. Like, I'm gonna be honest, when you see like some comic book characters that are really cool in the comics, and you see how sometimes when they're translated into film or TV show, you see that they blunder in that, and they do a big blunder and like make a really lame version. Dr. Doom in this is probably the lamest version of like a character from a comic book brought to the big screen that I have ever seen, honestly. It is honestly, yeah, his design, so bad, honestly. I'm making it the thumbnail of this video. You'll see how it is. And man, I absolutely do not like it. It's just terrible. And then like, okay, so I should talk about Victor Von Doom is what he is before he becomes Dr. Doom. That's his name. Victor Von Doom is a scientist who is very arrogant and like has a big ego, and he's even one of the first to suggest that they should be the ones to ride the machine, you know, right? Like that they're creating, or like go through the portal thing, whatever. You get what I mean. The first thing, whatever. I think Reed was actually the first one to say that they should do that when the scientist people or like the big government people say they can't do that. But like Dr. Doom was the first one to say, hey, we're gonna be the ones to actually use it first. But like regardless, after like they go through it and they have their big accident and stuff, we don't see Dr. Doom for a while, honestly. Like, yeah, for a big chunk of the movie, we do not see him again. And then like we see like what happens to the Fantastic Four. But like once we see Dr. Doom again, we see his ugly design. He just suddenly goes, I want to kill humanity. And it's like, again, comes out of nowhere, and then he just becomes this baddie who brings a portal into the sky to bring in the stuff from that other world to destroy it. I'm not good at describing it, but I don't care enough about this villain to fully describe his plan. But yeah, this Dr. Doom is honestly so lame, which is real shit, because Dr. Doom is one of the best comic book villains of all time, honestly. Yeah, he is absolutely amazing, and here he's just, man, they just reduced them to something real lame. The thing that I like the least about this movie is just how gloomy it all is. Like, from the way it looks and feels, not fun. And like, I get that what the director was trying to go for, that he wanted to do more of a body horror type of thing, and I'm not saying that wouldn't work with the Fantastic Four. I mean, it didn't here, but because of a bunch of other reasons. But like, even if it was successful, you know, right, at what they were trying to do, I don't know if that's necessarily what I want from Fantastic Four. At least not from like a movie of Fantastic Four that's trying to revitalize the franchise and try to kickstart something new and all that. I feel like to give, because like, again, there have been so many bad attempts at trying to bring Fantastic Four to the big screen. For this, I feel like they should have just done what people want. Take more from the comics, which, like, of course, bold statement. Oh man, they should take more from the comics? Like, yeah, I know, it's crazy, but like, for real, I think that's just the obvious thing to do, and that's what I want to see. Like, the adventures from the comics, I just want to see that, because, okay, here's a thing that I really like about the Fantastic Four. They're superheroes, but they're also adventurers. They're explorers. They go on these big, crazy adventures, like, on these, like, in these crazy locations, and they discover crazy things, and it's just, like, really fun, and, like, honestly, I kind of like that aspect a little bit more. Like, of course, I love it when they're superheroes and they save the day, but I also like that, because, like, we see them, like, interact in these, like, different locations. We kind of see them, right, what they do, and then like stuff like that I just really like. And when I first heard that that's what the Fantastic Four were more of, like not just superheroes but also adventurers and explorers, that kind of gave me the vibe of like one of my favorite shows ever. And like, okay, you're gonna think I'm stupid for even comparing it to this, but when I compare it to it, I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing. I'm just saying it gave me like a similar vibe when I first heard about it. Okay, do you guys know DuckTales 2017? And just to be clear, I'm not talking about like the original DuckTales. I haven't seen enough of that to make a comparison, but like in DuckTales 2017, it's about this family of ducks, right? Scrooge McDuck, Donald Duck, Huey, Dewey, Louie, Webby. They're all connected in some way. They're all like either related to each other or are like really close friends with one another, and it's just like all of them have a family bond, and they have the resources to go on these crazy adventures in these crazy locations and discover crazy things. And then we even get like these really great stories with them that can be emotional in some places. And like, honestly, I love that. And Fantastic Four kind of gives me that vibe. This family who have the resources to go to these weird places and go on weird adventures, and again also have that family dynamic to it. I just love that, and I kind of want to see that in a movie. Honestly, it's like this body horror thing I feel could probably work, but if they wanted to do that, I feel like, I don't know, maybe they should have waited until like afterwards, after they have already set the groundwork for a good adaptation of Fantastic Four that actually feels like it's adapting a Fantastic Four type of story. And that's why I feel like if they were like, I know there's gonna be that MCU movie, and so for something that I really hope they do with that is I want them to make Fantastic Four more of an adventure movie. A superhero movie can still work, but I don't know, I feel like an adventure movie would be really creative to do with the Fantastic Four. I would love to see that. Ultimately, though, I should look at this movie as its own thing. Even if it's not what I wanted, I should still look at it as its own thing and see that, hey, parts of it kind of worked. I kind of like that part in the beginning with the Ben and Reed, and then I kind of like that part that actually was sort of a body horror, and it was kind of creepy. Everything else, though, not really. And like, again, a lot of stuff happened to make it be like this. Studio meddling, the director being kind of a jerk on set, reshoots, a bunch of stuff cut out, all that stuff. Maybe out there in some alternate universe, there's a version of this movie that was never like altered or anything. It was exactly what the director wanted to be, and maybe it's good. Who knows? But as of right now, it's like, yeah, this movie, it's not all that interesting. The characters are kind of bland, and the story is pretty messy, and Doctor Doom is so lame in this, but it wasn't boring. I'll say that. It was kind of a short watch, so I guess that's 2 points right there.
Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go hang out with my friend who I met at the 7-Eleven.
And yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
So what you're saying is, you think it's bad?
Yeah. I guess if you want to simplify it, then yes.
All right, that's cool. You want to play PS5?
Yeah. Let's do that. So which controller should I use?
Are you racist?